So in this video, I will be showing you how to write some fairly simple SQL queries. Now, what we have open in front of us is MySQL Workbench. It's a tool that we can use, it's an application that we can use to connect to a database and to a database server. And once we connect to the database server, we can see the different schemas and the different databases that are present on that server. And we can interact with these databases using SQL queries. Now, just a little bit of description on what you're seeing in front of you. On the left-hand side, you will see the different schemas of the different databases that are present on the database server. In this case, we have a database called schema or a database called Classic Models, Northwind, something called Broccoli, and a couple of others, including one called Text. And so these are the different schemas or databases that exist on the database server that I have connected to. Over here on the right hand side, I have a query window where I can write my SQL queries. And once I execute these queries, I will see their output down here under action output. Okay, now before we start writing SQL queries, and simple SQL queries at that, we need to pick a database that we want to use. And so the database that we're going to use is the one called Text. And so before we can actually write a query on a specific database, we have to actually use that database. You will notice that Classic Models is highlighted in a bold black. And so that means our current active database or our current active schema is Classic Models. We want the current active schema to be Text. And so we would need to either double click on Text or type in the command use text. Now please note that this schema, this database structure is case sensitive, and so T is capitalized. Right? MySQL itself, commands like use are not case sensitive, so I can either type in capital USE or I could also type in lowercase USE. It works out the same way. But the names of databases, columns, tables, etc. are case sensitive. And so we shall type in use text, and then we can run this. To run this, we're going to highlight this lightning bolt with a cursor. You can click on that, and you will notice that text gets highlighted in black. Under action output, we see a check mark right next to use text. No rows are affected, but we are actively using this database. Now, you will notice that there are tables that are present. And so if we click on that arrow right there, we can see a list of all the different tables that are present in the text database or text schema. And so these tables refer to the book database management, or I'm sorry, these tables refer to the text data management written by Dr. Rick Watson, and that's what we're going to be using. So in this case, we have a variety of different tables over here. Now, one of the simplest form of queries that one can write is a select query. Select query is basically allowing us to, inspect one of these tables, to query one of these tables, and get data out. If you want any SQL query is typically So on the left-hand side, we see a variety of different tables over here. Now, the simplest form of query is a select query. And one of the simplest select queries is a query that allows us to list all the data that may be present in these tables that are present on the database text. And so, what does the query look like? The query looks like select. This is the select statement. And we're going to select star. Star is known as a wildcard character. It basically means select everything. And what we're going to do is we're going to select star, we're going to select everything from a table. In this case, let's say that the table we want to select from is this table called share right here. So select star, select everything from the table share. You finish up an SQL statement with a semicolon, and then if I click on this lightning with the cursor button on it, I see that this table actually has some data, and all the data in the table has been returned. If you take a look at the action output, you will see that this query was executed and 10 rows were returned. And if you take a look at this, there are 10 rows right here. You will also notice in the output that each of these columns actually has a column header. These are the attributes of the table share, such as SHR code, SHR firm, SHR price, SHR QTY, dividend, SHR PE. So these are all the different columns that exist in the table share, or different attributes of the table share, and this is the data that's present in the table share. And so this is the simplest form of SQL query. Now, one might make a decision that I don't want to select all the columns of the table share. I want to select specific columns from the table share. For instance, I want the SHR code, the share code in this case. I want SHR firm. I want SHR price. I want the first 3 columns. I don't want all the columns. Star gives me all the columns. I don't want that. I want the first 3 columns. In that case, one would write a statement, an SQL statement that looks like this: select, and I have to specify exactly the columns I want. In this case, SHR code, SHR firm, and SHR price from table share. Please note, I have adhered to the conventions. The way these columns are named are exact. SHR code, no capitalization. So I'm adhering to the specific column names over here. And so I select these 3 columns that I want from the table share. Again, I can run this. And you'll note I have those 3 columns right here. The rest of the columns I don't retrieve. This does not mean that the data is now disappeared. The data is still there. It's just that I'm not interested in these other columns that were present. I'm interested in these first 3 columns. Now, what this also allows me to do is I can select the order in which I want these columns. I could say I want SHR firm first, SHR price next, and SHR code from share. And so this reorders the output. And so the order in which these columns are specified is the order in which the data is presented to me. This does not actually affect the way the underlying data is stored. It just affects the presentation of the data as I see it. And so this is your generic SQL select statement. Select star from share, selects everything. Then we can select specific columns. We can modify the way in which we want these columns depicted. Now, the next thing we could do is we can say, okay, we've selected specific columns, but now I want to specify the rows that I want. I don't want all the rows. There are 10 rows that are always being returned because there are 10 rows of data in the table. But I don't want all the rows of data. I want specific rows of data. And the way I would do that is using a where clause. And so that would be select SHR firm. So I still want the same columns. I want SHR firm, SHR price, and SHR code from share. But I don't want all the rows. I want specific rows. I want rows where the share price is greater than, let's say, 30. right? And so I would use a where clause. I would say where SHR price is greater than 30. Where is what allows me to restrict the rows that I get back. And so when I run this query, you will see that instead of returning 10 rows that the previous queries were doing, I am now returning 7 rows. So there were 3 rows that did not meet the criteria of having share price greater than 30. And so I only have 7 rows returned with the columns SHR firm, SHR price, and SHR code. And so one can select specific columns, one can select specific rows that they want from a table using an SQL query. Now, every table in an SQL database has this thing known as a primary key. A primary key uniquely identifies every row in a table. In this case, in the case of the table share, the primary key is SHR code. It is unique for every share. And so, how many rows do you think are going to be retrieved if I restrict or if I query on a primary key? Well, let's find out. In this case, the primary key I want to query on is SHR code, and the value I'm checking for is AR. Please note that AR is present within quotes. It's character data, so it needs to be within quotes. You can either use double quotes, or you can actually use single quotes as well. So double quotes, single quotes, you can use either. And so how many rows do you think are going to be retrieved? There should be 1 retrieved because it is a unique identifier for a row, and so you're going to get 1 row back when you query on a primary key. So there we have it. Now, you might want to retrieve more than 1 row. What if you wanted to select more than 1 SHR code? So we have a variety of different SHR codes. I'm just gonna get them by running this query. Select star from share. I'm going to get back all my data once again. So let's say instead of just Abyssinian Ruby, I want AR and NG, right? So what if I wanted to retrieve 2 rows of data where my SHR code is AR and or my SHR code is Nigerian keys? And so that query would look like this. Select star from share. Now, star means I want to select all the columns. I'm not interested in specific columns. I want to select all the columns. You can obviously modify that and say, okay, I want these 3 or 4 or 2 columns, right? In this case, I'm just keeping it simple. I'm going to select all the columns from share where the SHR code is equal to AR. I can specify the other SHR code by specifying the clause or SHR code is equal to NG. And so what this query is going to do is it's going to retrieve the rows where the SHR code is AR or the SHR code is NG. When I run this query, I should have 2 rows of data. Now, what if I wanted a 3rd row? Well, I can have another OR in here and say SHR code is equal to, I noticed I had Burmese elephant, so if I say BE and I run this, I get 3 rows of data. Now, what if there were 10 of such things, right? Would I have to do or SHR code equal to, or SHR code equal to? Well, that's one option. Your other option would be to use the in clause, the includes clause, right? And the way you would use that is select star from share where SHR code includes the following values: ER, comma, NG, comma, BE. The includes clause allows me to specify this list of values that I want to retrieve with my query. And in this case, I have those three. And again, please note the action output that these queries are being successfully executed. Right? So the last one being select star from share where SHR code includes AR, NG, BE. And so the includes clause allows me to specify this list of values. Now, what if I wanted the other records and did not want AR, NG, and BE? I want the other records. I did not want AR, NG, and BE. And so would I have to say select star from share where SHR code includes and specify that list of other values within these parentheses? No, because there is a modifier to the includes clause. There is a modifier to the includes clause, and what does one think that modifier is? That modifier is not includes. So if I specify a not in, what that does is it says select everything from share where your SHR code is everything that is not AR, NG, and BE. So if I run this query, I get the other records. And so the modifier to includes with a not gets the other results, right? So not including AR, NG, and BE. Now, in what order is this data presented, right? So if I, again, running this basic query, select star from share, I am getting this in some sort of alphabetical order for share code, the way the data is stored in the table share. What if I wanted to order these results in some other way, for instance, right? And so let's say select star from share, and I want these results presented in a different way. I want to, I'm interested in the price to earnings ratio of the shares, with the highest ones being first. And now we can see SHRP is all jumbled up over here. Well, the way I could order the results is to use a clause called order by. And so I'm selecting everything from share, but I'm ordering the results by SHRPE. Now, if I just type in order by SHRPE, what it's going to do is it's going to order the results by SHRPE. Now, you will notice the default ordering of SHRPE is ascending, numbers going from low to high. One can modify this ordering by specifying DESC. And so in descending order, by specifying DESC is specifying order the results by SHRPE in descending order. And that gives me numbers going from high to low. And so we can put this together with the other parts of a select statement. So let's say I want those shares where the SHRPE is greater than 10, ordered in descending order. So I want the share code, share firm, and share price of those shares where the SHRPE is greater than 10 reported in descending order of price. And so what would that look like? Aha. So let's write out what we actually want from this query. And so this is the query that I want to write. Write a query reporting the SHR code, SHR from, SHR price, SHR PE, where the SHR PE is greater than 10, order the results in descending order of price. And so how would one write this query? So first thing you've got to realize is you want these 4 columns. So select. If I want those columns, I've got to specify the names of the columns. SHR code, SHR firm, SHR price, and SHR PE. The next thing I've got to do is specify the table I want this from. And so these are in the share table. So from share. Now, I want certain rows. I want only a certain set of rows. Those rows are where the SHR PE is greater than 10. So where the SHR PE is greater than 10. Now, based on this, I have a set of results, but I want the results to be ordered based on SHR price. Order the results by SHR price in descending order. And when I run this query, I get 6 firms. SHRPE is all greater than 10, but they're ordered in descending order of price. And so one can take all the stuff that we've learned so far and put it together in one single query.